The next day Shirley expressed to Caroline how delighted she felt that the little party had gone off so well. "I rather like to entertain a circle of gentlemen," said she. "It is amusing to observe how they enjoy a judiciously concocted repast. For ourselves, you see, these choice wines and these scientific dishes are of no importance to us, but gentlemen seem to retain something of the naivete of children about food, and one likes to please them, that is, when they show the becoming, decent self-government of our admirable rectors. I watch more sometimes, to try and discover how he can be pleased, but he has not that child's simplicity about him. Did you ever find out his accessible point, Caroline? You have seen more of him than I." "It is not, at any rate, that of my uncle and Dr. Boltby," returned Caroline, smiling. She always felt a sort of shy pleasure in following Miss Keelder's lead respecting the discussion of her cousin's character. Left to herself, she would never have touched on the subject, but when invited, the temptation of talking about him of whom she was ever thinking was irresistible. "But," she added, "I really don't know what it is, for I never watched Robert in my life, but my scrutiny was presently baffled by finding he was watching me." "There it is," exclaimed Shirley. "You can't fix your eyes on him but his presently flash on you. He is never off his guard. He won't give you an advantage. Even when he does not look at you, his thoughts seem to be busy amongst your own thoughts, tracing your words and actions to their source, contemplating your motives at his ease. Oh, I know that sort of character, or something in the same style. It is one that piques me singularly. How does it affect you?" This question was a specimen of one of Shirley's sharp, sudden turns. Caroline used to be fluttered by them at first, but she had now got into the way of parrying these home thrusts like a little Quakeress. "Pique you? In what way does it pique you?" she said. "Here he comes," suddenly exclaimed Shirley, breaking off, starting up and running to the window. "Here comes a diversion. I never told you of a superb conquest I have made lately, made at those parties to which I can never persuade you to accompany me, and the thing has been done without effort or intention on my part, that I aver. There is the bell, and, by all that's delicious! There are two of them. Do they never hunt, then, except in couples? You may have one, Lena, and you may take your choice. I hope I am generous enough. Listen to Tartar." The black-muzzled, tawny dog, a glimpse of which was seen in the chapter which first introduced its mistress to the reader, here gave tongue in the hall, amidst whose hollow space the deep bark resounded formidably. A growl more terrible than the bark, menacing as muttered thunder, succeeded. "Listen," again cried Shirley, laughing. "You would think that the prelude to a bloody onslaught. They will be frightened. They don't know old Tartar as I do. They are not aware his uproars are all sound and fury, signifying nothing." Some bustle was heard. "Down, sir, down!" exclaimed a high-toned, imperious voice, and then came a crack of a cane or whip. Immediately there was a yell, a scutter, a run, a positive tumult. "Oh, Malone, Malone! Down! Down! Down!" cried the high voice. "He really is worrying them," exclaimed Shirley. "They have struck him. A blow is what he is not used to, and will not take." Out she ran. A gentleman was fleeing up the oak staircase, making for refuge in the gallery or chambers in hot haste. Another was backing fast to the stairfoot, wildly flourishing a knotty stick, at the same time reiterating, "Down! Down! Down!" while the tawny dog bayed, bellowed, howled at him, and a group of servants came bundling from the kitchen. The dog made a spring, the second gentleman turned tail and rushed after his comrade. The first was already safe in a bedroom. He held the door against his fellow, nothing so merciless as terror. But the other fugitive struggled hard, the door was about to yield to his strength. "Gentlemen," was uttered in Miss Keelder's silvery but vibrating tones, "spare my locks, if you please. Calm yourselves. Come down. Look at Tartar, he won't harm a cat." She was caressing the said Tartar. He lay crouched at her feet, his forepaws stretched out, his tail still in threatening agitation, his nostrils snorting, his bulldog eyes conscious of a dull fire. He was an honest, phlegmatic, stupid, but stubborn canine character. He loved his mistress and John, the man who fed him, but was mostly indifferent to the rest of the world. Quiet enough he was, unless struck or threatened with a stick, and that put a demon into him at once. "Mr. Malone, how do you do?" continued Shirley, lifting up her mirthlit face to the gallery. "That is not the way to the oak parlor, that is Mrs. Pryor's apartment. Request your friend Mr. Don to evacuate. I shall have the greatest pleasure in receiving him in a lower room." "Ha! Ha!" cried Malone, in hollow laughter, quitting the door, and leaning over the massive balustrade. "Really, that animal alarmed Don. He is a little timid," he proceeded, stiffening himself, and walking trimly to the stairhead. "I thought it better to follow, in order to reassure him." "It appears you did. Well, come down, if you please. John," turning to her manservant, "go upstairs and liberate Mr. Don. Take care, Mr. Malone, the stairs are slippery." In truth they were, being of polished oak. But caution came a little late for Malone. He had slipped already in his stately descent, and was only saved from falling by a clutch at the banisters, which made the whole structure creak again. Tartar seemed to think the visitor's descent affected with unwarranted éclat, and accordingly he growled once more. Malone, however, was no coward. The spring of the dog had taken him by surprise, but he passed him now in suppressed fury rather than fear. If a look could have strangled Tartar, he would have breathed no more. Forgetting politeness in his sullen rage, Malone pushed into the parlor before Miss Keeldar. He glanced at Miss Helstone. He could scarcely bring himself to bend to her. He glared on both the ladies. He looked as if, had either of them been his wife, he would have made a glorious husband at the moment. In each hand he seemed as if he would have liked to clutch one and gripe her to death. However, Shirley took pity. She ceased to laugh, and Caroline was too true a lady to smile even at anyone under mortification. Tartar was dismissed. Peter Augustus was soothed, for Shirley had looks and tones that might soothe a very bull. He had sense to feel that, since he could not challenge the owner of the dog, he had better be civil. And civil he tried to be, and his attempts being well received, he grew presently very civil and quite himself again. He had come, indeed, for the express purpose of making himself charming and fascinating. Rough portents had met him on his first admission to Fieldhead, but that passage got over. Charming and fascinating he resolved to be. Like March, having come in like a lion, he purposed to go out like a lamb. For the sake of air, as it appeared, or perhaps for that of ready exit in case of some new emergency arising, he took his seat, not on the sofa, where Miss Keeldar offered him entronization, nor yet near the fireside, to which Caroline, by a friendly sign, gently invited him, but on a chair close to the door. Being no longer sullen or furious, he grew, after his fashion, constrained and embarrassed. He talked to the ladies by fits and starts, choosing for topics whatever was most intensely commonplace. He sighed deeply, significantly, at the close of every sentence. He sighed in each pause. He sighed ere he opened his mouth. At last, finding it desirable to add ease to his other charms, he drew forth to aid him an ample silk pocket handkerchief. This was to be the graceful toy with which his unoccupied hands were to trifle. He went to work with a certain energy. He folded the red and yellow square cornerwise, he whipped it open with a waft, again he folded it in narrower compass, he made of it a handsome band. To what purpose would he proceed to apply the ligature? Would he wrap it about his throat, his head? Should it be a comforter or a turban? Neither. Peter Augustus had an inventive, an original genius. He was about to show the ladies graces of action possessing at least the charm of novelty. He sat on the chair with his athletic Irish legs crossed, and these legs, in that attitude, he circled with the bandana and bound firmly together. It was evident he felt this device to be worth an encore. He repeated it more than once. The second performance sent Shirley to the window, to laugh her silent but irrepressible laugh unseen. It turned Caroline's head aside, that her long curls might screen the smile mantling on her features. Miss Helstone, indeed, was amused by more than one point in Peter's demeanor. She was edified at the complete though abrupt diversion of his homage from herself to the heiress. The £5,000 he supposed her likely one day to inherit were not to be weighed in the balance against Miss Keelder's estate and hall. He took no pains to conceal his calculations and tactics. He pretended to no gradual change of views, he wheeled about at once. The pursuit of the lesser fortune was openly relinquished for that of the greater. On what grounds he expected to succeed in his chase himself best knew, certainly not by skillful management.